إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الإمام السعدي رحمه الله تعالى: ومن قواعد الشريعة التيسير في كل أمر نابه تعسير. And from the rules of the Sharia is ease, or bringing ease in every matter that has hardship in it. So, يا أخوة, this is the قاعدة: المشقة تجلب التيسير. المشقة تجلب التيسير. This rule is hardship brings ease. Hardship brings with it ease. طيب, يعني hardship brings ease because it requires to be lessened. طيب. الشيخ سليمان الرحيلي, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve him, talks about hardship. And he says hardship is of two types. النوع الأول مشقة أصلية للعمل توجد حيثما وجد العمل. He says the first type of hardship is the original hardship, the essential hardship, which is the hardship that's always there when it comes to the act of worship. And it must be there for the act of worship. And he says this one you don't pay attention to. And it is mandatory to carry out. Meaning what, ya ikhwa? Meaning that this hardship that is essential, that is always there with the act of worship, is mandatory upon you to do. And it is something you don't pay attention to. This is not what is meant here when it comes to hardship. يعني يا أخوة, let me explain to you something. Is there hardship in getting up early at the time of praying Fajr and praying it? Yes, there is. Is there hardship in going to the masjid and praying Jama'ah? Yes, there is. Is there hardship in fasting in Ramadan? Yes, there is. But this is not what is meant here. You don't pay attention to this. But what is the rule for me to recognize which hardship is meant? We say, look, the hardship that is always there with the act of worship itself, this is not what is meant here. Because this is essential to the act of worship. It is always going to be with the act of worship and will never go away. So this is not what is meant here. And it is general for everyone, not for one person, and for another it is different. لا, it's for everyone. طيب, this is what Shaykh Sulayma al-Ruhaili has mentioned. And he gives an example. The Shaykh says مشقة الوضوء بالماء البارد المعتاد, like making wudu with cold water that people are used to making wudu with. He says this type of hardship is always there with the act of worship. And he says, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve him, we are not talking about something that is abnormal, that is more than what people are used to in regards to coldness of the water. Because that type of cold water that is above what people are used to, that is more than what people are used to, تدخل في قاعدة المشقة تجلب التيسير, is included in the qaida and the rule that when there is hardship, there is ease. So the Shaykh continues explaining. He says, إذا كان الماء باردا جدا, if the water is extremely cold, وهناك برودة شديدة في البلد خارجة عن المعتاد, and the weather is cold, it is cold, and this cold is more than what people are used to. ولا يوجد ما يسخن به الماء, and there is nothing to heat the water with. Or that if he actually did so, then he's going to be harmed by that. Because of how cold it is, then this is included in the qa'idah that with hardship comes ease. أما البرد المعتاد, as for regular cold, and that the water is cold to the extent of that which people are used to, then this is not paid attention to. طيب. Is this understood? Barakallahu fikum. Let me give you another example, ya ikhwan. If you are sick, now there's hardship, right? This is your case. You are sick and you cannot stand up, for example, or you cannot make ruku' and sujood. Then with this comes ease. You pray while sitting. Or when it comes to ruku' and sujood, you don't have to perform them. You can sit down instead and just use your head to gesture with your head. You bow your head in ruku' and you bow more in sujood, for example. So with hardship comes what? Comes ease. This is the hardship that the Shaykh is talking about. He's not talking about the original hardship that comes with Hajj, for example. Everyone goes through that. When it comes with fasting, for example, everyone goes through that. But it has to do with what? It has to do with hardship that is inflicted upon people. And is not for everyone. Not the original hardship of the ibadah itself, but hardship that is circumstantial, that people are undergoing. طيب. The second type of hardship, he says, المشقة الخارجة عن المعتاد. Meaning hardship that is not what is common, that is not what people are used to. He says ليست ملازمة للعبادة وليست موجودة في العادة ولكنها عرضت. He says this type of hardship is not something that is always there with the act of worship. However, it is something that happens at a certain period of time, at a certain time. This type of worship is included in the rule that with hardship comes ease. I think I've explained this, and this is what the Shaykh said. Like this type, the second type, all of it is included in this rule. The ulama say, Shaykh Sulayma says, the ulama say that this type, the second type of hardship, is also divided into two parts. The first part, أن تكون مضبوطة بوصف شرعي فتجلب التيسير حيثما تحقق وصفها الشرعي. That it has a certain Islamic measurement, principle, requirement. And once it meets this requirement, this description, then yes, it is included under this qa'idah. Meaning, it brings ease. This hardship brings ease with it. Like what? The Shaykh says, مثل مشقة السفر, like the hardship of traveling. The hardship has a requirement that has been met, which is what? Which is traveling. So whenever we find traveling Islamically, and whenever someone has fit the description of traveling, someone is actually traveling, then ease comes with traveling Islamically. So we don't look at the hardship itself. However, we look at the Islamic definition of it, the Islamic description of it. Meaning what? A person is traveling by airplane. There is air conditioning, he is comfortable, and so on. We do not look at this Islamically. We look at the Islamic description only, which is what? Traveling. Let's take a pause here. What is the Shaykh talking about? What is he saying? He's saying, no one can come to us and say, back in the day it was hard to travel. It is no longer hard to travel now. I'm only traveling for a couple of hours, 3 hours. I'm in an airplane. I'm going to eat. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to, 5 hours I'll be there. There's air conditioning. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to eat. I'm going to be there. In Islam, this is not how it is looked at. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a general ease that comes with traveling, which is what? Once you are traveling, then all these rulings that ease salah for you, ease fasting for you, ease the jama'ah for you, and so on and so forth, it applies to you. But it's not hard. There is no hardship. We say this is not what is meant. You don't look at the hardship itself during traveling. No. What you are looking at is the criteria. Has it been met? Are you a traveler? Are you traveling? Yes, I am. Then you can enjoy the ease that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set for you. طيب. Shaykh Sulayma continues, he said, and therefore the forerunners of the fuqaha, those that came before us, al-mutaqaddimuna min al-fuqaha, those that came before us of the fuqaha, the ulama of fiqh, they say, إن الملك المرفه إذا سافر فإنه يترخص مع أنه في نعيم. That the king, a king who is muraffah, yani who is what? Who is comfortable and he is enjoying bliss. If he travels, then he also takes the rukhsah, the excuses of traveling, the ease that comes with traveling, despite the fact that he is in bliss and comfortableness. He says, Shaykh Sulayma, as many people say, his traveling, yani a king's traveling, is more comfortable than the living of most people who are not traveling. And despite that, he is still allowed to enjoy what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him of ease when it comes to salah and so on, because he has met the Islamic criteria and description, which is traveling. أيضا بعضهم كان يقول, some of the fuqaha would say, لو طار ببساط الريح. What do you call بساط الريح in English? What do you call flying carpet? Is that what you call it? بساط الريح comes in stories. There is like يعني some stories that are that have to do with literature that back in the day, old times, they used to think, يعني, tell stories and so on that, you can sit on a carpet and start flying. نعم, أخي pursue excellence, like Alauddin, Aladdin, and so on. So this is part of literature, by the way. There are stories that are said in literature, and then they have been adopted to cartoons and stuff like this. The magic carpet. This is what they call it, the magic carpet. And in Arabic we say bisat al-rih, meaning the flying carpet. This is what we say. So the fuqaha, they would say, even if he flew with the magic carpet or the flying carpet, let's say, better than magic has to do with sihr, let's say the flying carpet, at that time, ya akhwa, this is imagined for them. At that time, this is a fairy tale for them. Somebody who sits on a carpet and he flies. And nowadays, what, ya akhwa? Nowadays we have what? We have the planes, even more comfortable than a flying carpet, and we fly with it. So the fuqaha back in the day, they would say, even if he were to travel upon a flying carpet, he still has the ease, the rukhas that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made for him. So if he's fasting, he can break his fast. If he is while traveling, he can make jam' and qasr, and so on. طيب. So what is the rule now? Write it down. Write the rule. إذا كانت المشقة مضبوطة بوصف شرعي فإنها تجلب التيسير حيثما وجد الوصف الشرعي بغض النظر عن ذات المشقة. This is the rule. If the hardship has a description, an Islamic description or a criteria then it brings ease with it whenever this criteria is met, despite or without looking at the hardship itself, whether it is actual hardship or not, without looking at it itself. Even meaning even if it was not hardship, as long as the Islamic criteria that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set for us is met, then we can enjoy the ease that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put for us. This is the first type. What about the second type? If it is not, doesn't have an Islamic criteria. The ulama divided this one into 3 parts. The first one is the light one. Shaykh Sulayma Al says, number 1 is the light hardship that occurs at a certain time. People with a sound mind don't pay attention to it. For example, a person, his finger starts hurting him a little bit. So he says, Wallahi, Shaykh Sulayma Al says that this person would say, Wallahi ana usbu'i yu'limuni. Uridu an uftir. My finger is hurting me, so I'm gonna stop fasting. I'm gonna break my fast. He says, ليس على المريض حرج. There's no harm against the one who is sick. فعدة من أيام أخر. Then he can make up the fasting. Shaykh Sulayma Al says, أنت حافظ لكن ما أنت بفقيه. هذا لا يلتفت إليه. The Shaykh is joking. He's saying, you memorize the ayat, but you are not a faqih, because this is not paid attention to. طيب. The second type is the extreme, the hard. Something that is the hardship that is what? That is burdensome. Let's say hardship that is burdensome. This mandates what? This mandates ease. Like, for example, what? Al-Humma Shadida, like severe fever. Or, for example, your tooth is hurting you a lot. And severe sicknesses. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and you. By agreement, this meets the criteria and it mandates ease and taking the rukhsah. But what about in the middle, which is the third type, al-mutawassit? It is not light that you don't pay attention to, and it is not severe that is burdensome. So it is between the two. It's similar to that which is light, and it is similar to that which is severe. The Shaykh Sulayma Al says, in this situation, the correct saying of the ulama, meaning the ulama have many sayings. He says the correct one out of them, فيها أن المكلف فقيه نفسه, that the one who is doing the act of worship, he is the one who is the faqih of himself. He's the one who's going to judge. فإن كان هذا يثقل عليه ثقلا زائدا فإنه يتخفف بهذا. So if he sees that this burdens him, it's heavy on him, then he takes the ease. He takes the excuses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put, the ease that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put for him. So he can do what? He can break his fast, for example, because this is burdensome on him, it's heavy. وإن كان لا يثقل عليه ولا يؤثر فيه فإنه لا يجوز له أن يترخص به. And if it is not the case, it's not burdensome on him, he's not affected by it, then it is not permissible for him, it is haram for him, not permissible for him to take the rukhsah of Allah Azza wa Jal, to take the way out that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put for him, the ease, the excuse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put for him. So he must continue fasting and so on. And this, ya akhwa, these are general rules I am saying now. These are general rules. So they apply to fasting, they apply to Hajj, they apply to Salah, they apply to many, many things. طيب. The Shaykh says مثل مرض الزكام, like the flu. الأصل العام أنه خفيف. In general, it is what? It is light, it's not heavy. لكن بعض الناس إذا أصابه الزكام يثقل عليه جدا. However, for some, when they are inflicted with the flu, it becomes very burdensome for them. ويوقعه في الحرج. It puts him in a tight situation, in a difficult situation. فهذا بعينه له أن يترخص به. So this person, for him only, he is allowed to take the rukhsah. But what is the evidence on this rule, ya akhwa? What is the evidence for this rule? The evidence is the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 185. يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants easy for you and does not want hardship for you. Shaykh Sulayma al-Ruhaili, the Allama, the Usuli, the Faqih, he says what? He says وَالْإِرَادَةُ هُنَا شَرْعِيَّةٌ أَمْرِيَّةٌ. And the want here is an Islamic want that is a command. What does this mean? This needs an explainer. You have to have someone to explain to you what the Shaykh is saying. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ. Allah desires for you. Allah wants for you. Allah wants for you. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ. Allah wants ease for you. So the Shaykh is saying, this want for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Islamic. And it is amri. Meaning what? Command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us. This is an Islamic want. Allah intends for you ease. Allah wants for you ease. How? Islamically. So the Shaykh Sulayma al-Ruhaili says, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمْ فِي شَرْعِهِ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His commandments, there you go. This is a better translation. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for you in His religion and in His commandments that He has commanded for you, ease and not hardship. Religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. طيب. قال الله عز وجل, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 286, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not burden a soul with that which it is not capable of. It has what it has what كسبت, what it has done from good deeds, and from bad deeds it's against it. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إن هذا الدين يسر. This religion is ease. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, يسروا ولا تعسروا. Bring ease and do not bring hardship. And there are many, many evidences when it comes to this rule. Na'am. The commandment of Allah, He wants for us in His religion and His commandment is but not hardship. Allah saying, Allah does not burden a soul beyond it. Allah burdens not a soul beyond His scope. Na'am. He gets rewarded for that which he has earned, and he is punished for that which he has earned. Na'am. This is the proper translation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. And the next, inshallah azza wa jal, the next lesson we will have is tomorrow. We will continue, inshallah azza wa jal, as we are in the Mandhumah Al Fiqhiyyah. And we will start with the verse of the poem, وَلَيْسَ وَاجِبٌ بِلَا اقْتِدَارِ وَلَا مُحَرَّمٌ مَعَ الطِّرَارِ. And there is nothing that is mandatory when one does not have the ability to carry it out, and it is not haram. There is nothing that is forbidden when there is a necessity, when there is an urgent necessity. We will, inshallah azza wa jal, start with this tomorrow. We will carry on with the Mandhumah Al Fiqhiyyah tomorrow, inshallah azza wa jal, with this verse of the poem. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.